Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors simply don't convert. So the ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work, and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. All right, everyone, welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today we are joined by Himanshu, who is the founder of First Principles. Himanshu, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited.
Likewise. We were just warming up just before hitting record, and we were talking about first principles and a few things that you got going. But Imanshu, in your own words, what's the heart of what your company does, what you guys are doing, and how would you describe it to someone new, like our audience?
Yeah, Rick, I've got a couple of things on my plate. Well, First Principles is more of a passion project for me. I started out as a teenager running a small artist management agency. This goes way back, when I was in high school, which eventually turned into a record label, and I sold it off when I was 19. That was my first time when I was building something, and I realized that while it's important to have a product or a service, it's equally important how you talk about it, how you distribute. Uh, the kind of words you use, your copy and messaging, all of them become really important. And over the years, I've built and scaled multiple ventures across AI, SaaS. Uh, I've worked in fintech, I've worked in edtech, and I've worked with e-commerce. So, a couple of a, a lot of exposure when it comes to different fields, different domains. But one thing that has been common is my struggle to find out the right set of messaging or the right copy that could
Mm.
work well. Uh, First Principles started out as a way to do that. With First Principles, I'm offering fellowships to people who are in school and colleges. Like if you're interested in learning about different schools of thoughts around storytelling, different practices, different frameworks, different structures, which probably we can again translate and use for SaaS marketing or B2B marketing or B2C marketing. So that's the whole agenda there. I've been doing that for a year now. Uh, and I think with with this whole chat GPT and AI coming into the picture, it's becoming really easy to create a product. The barrier to entry to be a founder or to become a creator or to become uh, or to run, or to create your own tool, it's pretty low. So the differentiator is going to be how you market. And I think, of course, Pathmark would want to get into a detailed conversation about how you guys do that. But your GTM will be, if not less, but equally or even more important than the product. So with First Principles, I'm trying to enable that, work with a bunch of students, interns, and see if we can create a great content bank around storytelling, which all of us could benefit out of.
That's pretty cool, and also sounds like you're passing it on in a way, working with students. You were a student yourself. You had this idea. You're a creative type, so you got going and you actually acted on it, and now you're helping them do something similar, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, when it comes to first principles, is it only student you work with, or do you have companies and industries you work with, or is it specific, let's say, to students?
There is a consulting arm to it. Of course, the goal is to be able to take these services to organizations who need it. Uh, I'm working with a couple of organizations right now. One of them is out of the blue. It's similar to that of a triple whale. I'm sure you would have heard about it uh,
Mhm.
in the e-commerce space. And then I'm also working with. So previously, I was working full time with this. Organization, this company called Dev Dynamics. They're a developer productivity platform. Uh, so I still continue to work with them in whatever capacity I can. Uh, so that's more into developer productivity space. But yeah, at one point or at one time, I try to be associated with just one brand because that really allows me to dive deep into their domain and see what is the set of messaging, or what kind of content is working for them, because it's a long term cycle, right? The feedback loop is long.
Mm.
You know if the blogs that you're doing or the hero section that you have changed on the website, is it going to work or not? So yeah, that's where I am right now.
Very good, very good. What would you say, Himanshu, what's the core problem that you would help these companies solve, if you will? And what can they expect when they come to you, whether it's, to you personally or through first principles and the people you're training? What do you say is the one problem that they have that you see maybe there's a pattern there or, something that you help them solve?
The one problem is that I think we have forgotten the art of staying simple. I think through our schooling and the way we have grown up, you grow up to admire a certain language, you admire a certain author, or the way books are written. But what you read on an editorial piece, like on a book or on a website, that's not how you and me talk. Like, if whatever we are talking right now, if this was published, it would be a totally different language altogether, right? So we have grown up to writing our content that way. So we have forgotten the art of being simple. That's number one. Second thing is, I think, just building upon that, and this is something what I said earlier. These days, a lot of founders or a lot of startups, you will find these people. So these are all people who are probably techies, the product people, tech people who came together, who built something. Now they really struggle to translate their offering in a language that people can understand. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's one thing that I'm solving for. And this one thing which I always say to my friends and people that I'm working with, that simple is the new smart. Like, the more simple you can be, the smarter your content is going to.
That's I like it. I like it. There's another one that I heard recently, which really stuck with me. That's the term complexity. So that's the merging of complexity, which is needed for many things, right? But also simplicity. And it's like complexity is being able to condense or synthesize, if you will, something complex into something simple, which is really really hard, right? So along the lines of what you said, I think that's what we need to strive for. So I definitely agree. Um, Himanshu, what something you learned along the way when it comes um, to messaging, to the importance of, even with the companies you're working now, right? To the importance of having a great converting website, and maybe even if you have at the top of your head, maybe any tools, any methods, any frameworks, as I mentioned earlier, that you rely on to be able to make things simple so that people can, get what they want, get their goals.
I think there are a couple of people that have inspired me in this journey. One is, I think, if you're in this space, I'm sure you would have heard of, you would have heard of April Dunford. Uh, and she really talks about how you're supposed to nail your messaging. One thing that she always talks about it, that you have to always start with the problem and not the product. And
Mm,
this is a classic rookie mistake which a lot of first time founders or a small startup with no marketing people to say would do. uh you know so what happens is, you created a product, you like the product so much that you end up talking about it. Your website describes 10 different features, but majority of the time we are not buying features. Nobody is buying an iPhone because it has X GB of RAM or Y GB of storage. You're buying it for the class. You're buying it
mm,
for how you feel when you hold it. Uh, you're not buying a SaaS product because it helps you with some. I mean, of course, it's going to help you with something, but you're buying more because it's going to make your life easier. So a lot of times
mm,
we miss on addressing that part, that how is it making your life easier. Well, there's another person who I came across. This guy is Donald Miller. I guess you would have
mm.
heard of him.
The
uh
story brand, right? Right.
Correct. Yeah, the story brand guy. What I really loved about him was that he would say that, you know so he often talks about keeping your audience curious. you know you start with a loop that people want to close. So instead of saying that, like I'll take a triple whale or out of the blue perspective. Instead of saying we help you improve ROAS, you should say, I mean, I would say, your spends are scaling, but your revenue is not.
Mm.
This is why.
That's a
So,
problem right there, right? Just caught my attention.
so yeah, I think this is one thing that, so of course there are many there are many frameworks around it.
Mm.
I haven't explored all of it, but two that really stood out for me is April's positioning framework and Donald Miller's story loop. Uh, and I think both of them talk about. So April is coming more from the copy. How can you be really simple with the words that you're using? Donald is talking about start with start with the fire in the jungle, and then address how are you going to solve for it, how are you going to put out the fire. And I think to top it off, or to put a package to all of it is definitely first principles, as the name goes. I learned this one the hard way. Uh, Whenever something doesn't make sense, whether it's a campaign that didn't work or a team problem, at least now I try to break it down until it makes sense to a 10-year-old. I think there's also this book around mom's test, right? Like if you can't explain it to your mom, it's not going to work. So I mean, not that it's not going to work. You'll find it difficult to explain to a lot of people then. So
Yeah.
I think when you approach things from a first principles lens, you're also, I think the principles here are also the same, that you have to strip away with jargons, assumptions, trends, and what's really happening underneath. That's what you want to uncover. So yeah, I think these are a couple of frameworks that I think I've been using. When it comes to tools, man, I think I do want to start with ChatGPT right away, because I remember, I guess it was November of 2023, I guess, or no, earlier, maybe September, October. I don't remember when.
Hmm.
It was around that time when ChatGPT came in. The day it was launched, I went there, and even till date, ChatGPT really helps me a lot. Uh, well, along my journey, I learned that you have to be really good at asking questions. One of my
Hmm.
problems with all of these AI tools is that if a tool like ChatGPT, all of these LLMs, if they are trained on all of web data, then I think me and you can very well agree on this, that all of web data or majority of content on the internet is not high quality. Probably you're exposed to a lot of substandard data. So when you use these tools, there's a high chance that the output that you're getting is substandard. So how you prompt becomes really important. This is one. Then I think I've been using Mid Journey for a while. I also came across Descript. There was a point when I was doing podcasts, and towards the end of the podcast, I really wanted to get out chunks, 30 seconds, 60-second mini clips, which I can float. Descript helped me with that. Then I think these days I'm exploring a lot with Lovable and Emergent. It helps me create quick, quickly. I can create a landing page, test with the messaging that I want to run, and now I don't have to rely on a front end designer or on a developer. Of course, for when I want to create a full-fledged brand around it, I would want to get these people and professionals on board. But for
Hmm.
testing, I think Emergent has been really helpful. Yeah, I think that
Very good. Very good.
this is the broadly these are the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I'm sure you and many others, right? I know I use ChatGPT. I use Midjourney for a little while. It's just the world is your oyster when it comes to that, right? There's just so many out there, so many agents, things you
Yeah,
can build. It's almost, I wouldn't say almost even, it's overwhelming at some point. So you have to really know like what you're looking for, what your goals are, and then narrow it down to, okay, what tool am I picking out of the toolbox to be able to reach that goal, right? And that's I think how many people get lost. But it's really interesting to hear from you. What do you use, and how do you use it? So it's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Now, let's switch gears for a second, Himanshu, and as we go towards the back half of our podcast, maybe we talk about you as a leader, and what do you do? Essentially, my question, and I'm sure our audience is also wondering, what do you do on a daily basis that keeps you interested, excited, and what are the main things you focus on a day to day?
I think number one is talking to people. There have been times when I was heads down building stuff, and there are times when I'm not building, but I have to now promote it or sell it or get more users either to my website or offering, or even with the clients that I'm working with. I found it helpful to spend less time on the internet, but spend more time with talking to actual people. Man, there are so many communities out there. So while working with Dev Dynamics, so my background, like I studied psychology. I did have exposure to tech growing up. I got like very early in my age, I started working with Java. So I had a little bit
Mm.
of tech background back there. But when I started working with Dev Dynamics, I was dealing with a completely new audience. So for me to really understand that domain, I joined probably as many Slack and Discord communities possible. I mean, at one point I was part of about 50 plus of these communities, and I would talk to at least one or two people every day. Like I set aside in my early days with Dev Dynamics, I think this was half of the time I was doing this. But later on, like even when the product was there, like sorry, even the when the full-fledged product was out there in the market and we had good revenue, I was still talking to people. Eventually I figured out a way to use it as a form of, like, use it to create content also, just get people on a podcast or do roundtables, or just chit chat with them to write a blog. So of course you figure out how to repurpose your conversation, but talking to people is the number one thing that you're supposed to do. And that I've been doing it. It has always helped. This is number one. Like, now coming to what I do on a day-to-day basis, it depends. But a lot of time, my how I look at my role with my team and my clients is that my role here is to get you clarity and to present you with ways that you can market yourself. A lot of time that when I'm working with different founders, as I said, these are people who are great at tech. They just do not know how to use uh, how to create a distribution channel. So, on any given day, I might be working on what are the best practices around LinkedIn, how to write content on LinkedIn, or how you should plan a podcast, or how to plan a roundtable or an event. These are all milestone to milestone based things. But most importantly, what I'm really trying to do is to, like, with the people that I'm working, is to get them to realize the importance of having real conversations.
Mm.
It doesn't even have to be in the form of a, like, one-on-one conversation. You can simply be even maybe going through threads on Quora or Reddit. I mean, these places are gold mine for information. So I think that is what I'm doing. I think I really like to give this analogy of, I think there's this famous story about this woodcutter who would spend who go to the jungle. He would spend half of his time just sharpening his axe, so that he can cut more amount of wood in the half of that time. So I think it's more about that. So that's what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
Sharpening the axe.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. I like it. Um, Speaking of one-to-one, speaking of, well, I know maybe this is antithesis of what a deep conversation is, but what we like to do here towards the end of the podcast itself is a rapid fire segment of the podcast. Now, it's a few. We'll do free, light, quick question. Are you ready for that?
All excited. Tell me.
All right, let's do it. So, do you prefer watching, reading, or listening to content?
Listening.
Listening. What's the latest piece of content? It could be a podcast, could be an audiobook, whatever it is that you listen to, you picked up. And was there anything that really stuck with you in it?
I think a lot of people might hate me for this. Okay, I shouldn't use the word hate, but I recently became a fan of Joe Rogan. I mean, he's been out there for years, but I recently discovered. I wouldn't say discovered, but I got hooked on to his conversations. And what I really love about this guy is he really knows how to go deep. He would make the guest really comfortable, and then he's coming with his quick wit replies, and then but he's also able to frame the conversation and come up with questions in a way that people really get people really get it. So yeah, I think while there are many, but irrespective of whichever domain you are in, You should really listen to Joe Rogan. Like
He's
maybe
he's a good conversationalist, that's for sure.
awesome, man. He's really good at that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So if there were no limits, no boundaries with technology, what's one thing that you want fixed in your marketing life with tech?
How can you do? How can you make your websites hyper personal? If someone in New York opens my website, I know there are specific elements of the page that you can change, but can the whole website experience be tailored in a way which makes sense to a New Yorker, but at the same
Mm.
time, an engineer in New York would see something else, a doctor in New York should see something else, tailored to persona. I know it's a big thing to crack, or I don't know if somebody
Yeah,
has cracked it, but man, I would like to see that. It really, I think it would change the way we look at websites per se. I remember, so my founder, previous, I was associated with Dev Dynamics. My founder there, Prithvi, he would always say that, the line between the product and the website is blurring right now. You have to give the whole experience on the website itself. And there are different personas who use your different who use your product. So how can you really hyper personalize it? I think that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. If somebody has cracked it, please reach out to me. Uh,
yeah,
Not that I'm looking forward to it. I hope they
yeah.
do.
No, that's really interesting. Totally. We say no boundaries, right? So I think it's a legit one to ponder on. So yeah, maybe you'll get someone to reach out. Um, on the other hand, what's a repetitive task that you love to put on autopilot forever?
Hmm. Outreaches. I think there are many tools who are able to do it, orchestrating your whole uh, uh, pipelines.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a lot of room. Uh, maybe. So there's one thing, somebody comes to your website, he clicks on a certain button, that person enters some funnel. But
Mm.
there's this one experiment that I've been doing lately is I look at clarity data and see where people are spending a lot of time. So if there is a way to, and I try to do it manually, like I would go into clarity, I would see which, uh, I would explore the heat maps, which part of the websites are working, which are not, and then correlate it with my marketing campaigns. So yeah, I think this is one area, like with which ad campaign, where people are landing. I think that whole space.
Last and final question then. What is one thing that you love to put on autopilot forever?
If I could automate one thing, man, it would definitely be handoffs, like between marketing, design, and tech and dev teams. I mean, guys, the moment when you finally have a campaign ready, the copy looks solid, the visuals are done, and then what comes is what I like to call it's death by communication. Now you've got to explain the same idea 5 different times. Once in Notion, for documentation, of course, once on Slack because you're reaching out to people, hey, you got to do this. And then again on Figma with comments that, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. And then one more time with everybody on the call just to ensure that nobody messes it up. It just kills momentum,
Mm.
it's like you build this creative wave, and instead of writing it, you're filling forms and pinging people. If AI could just read the doc, understand the campaign, push it into the next tool, assign task, generate the assets, notify the teams with the right context, then that would be game changing. And I think what I'm really talking about here is a good orchestration of agents. Uh, if somebody could build that for me, uh, and I think another thing here would be just forget the copy generators. This is where the real value of AI is killing the drag between good ideas and execution. So good copies, but with a lot of context, more context
Mm.
driven coming out of it. Man, we talk a lot about productivity, but most of our time slows down in where it slows down is not creative work. It's actually handoffs. It's actually when I have to explain something to my tech team or to my CEO or to my product team. I think that's where a lot of things are spilling. That's the leaky bucket, I guess. So if somebody can really solve for this, somebody can automate the transfer of context and handoffs, that would be amazing. I'm
Hey,
pretty
if you're not
proud.
gonna get, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, nothing. I think I just wanted to say that if I could automate that part, man, I would not just double, I would triple my output overnight if I just had to explain less to people around me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was gonna say if you weren't gonna get any outreach for the previous idea, you're definitely gonna get it for this one, right? Documentation and streamlining communication for a handoff. There's got to be something out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Himanshu, I want to thank you a lot for being on the show with us today. And as we wrap things up, I also want to give you the last word. So, if someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is the one thing that they should remember about the work you're doing and what you're doing with First Principles and the other companies you work with?
Simple is the new smart. That's all.
I
Forget
like it.
everything. Just remember this.
I like it. I like it. Simple slogan, simple, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. So, if anyone wants to check you guys out, where could they go? And yeah, how can they reach out and maybe get more information about First Principles, for example?
You can go to firstprinciples.today or you can find me on LinkedIn. I think Rick, maybe we would be putting that in the description somewhere, right? So that they can reach out to me on LinkedIn maybe
Absolutely.
if they want to. And of course, it's firstprinciples.today. You can go there. You can reach out to me. Always up for a good conversation.
Amazing. And remember, simple is this new smart, right?
Yes, absolutely. The smartest thing
Amazing.
is simple.
Amazing. All right, Imanshu, thank you again for being with us today. I wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Rick. Wishing you the same. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.